and welcome to the show. We are here today on Forza Motorsport. Yes, it is time to talk and discuss Forza Motorsport, and oh boy, is there a lot of stuff to discuss here. We're going to start, though, with the driving physics. Of course, it's very important for a racing game, especially one that I, and I'm sure many people have been waiting for a long time. I will say so. I've just loaded up a free play race. I set the weather to random. We're at Mid-Ohio, and it's kind of drizzly. Now, one of the cool things that I do really like about this one is there are different compounds of tyres. If you have slicks on your car, you've got different compounds. Now, I've loaded this up, and the game reckons I should be on mediums. I don't know why I'd ever bother for a 5-lap race to be on mediums, but the game doesn't reckon I should be on wet tyres. Yet it does look decidedly drizzly. I don't know whether I want to actually gamble here. Well, the game reckons to go on dry, on slicks. I'm going to guess all the AI cars are, so if it gets wetter, I guess we all pit. Or someone tries to sort of stick it out. Slicks, funnily enough, on wet circuits do not work. I tested it. One of the first things I did, actually, tested it to see what would happen. I don't know if this was a good call. We might be about to find out how bad this is going to go. Yeah, this should be entertaining. Wasn't quite what I was going to go for, the old talking about here from the get-go. However, it does throw up what it's cool that we've got proper tyre strategy can be a thing now when it gets up to we got slick tyres on the car. You can have to be worrying about, the weather doing its thing. I don't know whether this is... So I've left this on... This was random dynamic weather, so it could do anything here. It could get worse. We could have... or was it variable weather? I think that was the one, sorry, not random. But yeah, it could... Oh, hello. It could get worse. We will have to wait and see. But anyway, yes, I digress. Driving physics. Let's jump into that. If you are familiar with a Forza game, you will be familiar. This will feel familiar. Okay, even if you've only ever played a Horizon game, this is going to feel along the same lines, but it is, of course, considerably different in terms of realism. Look, I've never driven a race car on a circuit. I can't tell you how close this is to realism, but the truth is I don't really care. What I care about is this fun to drive? Is it rewarding to drive? And the answer to that is yes. Yes, it is. I really like the way the vehicles drive. You take a big, heavy supercar out, and it feels, like it's powerful, it's got grip, but it is, at the end of the day, a big, heavy supercar. You take a lightweight track car, and you can feel the difference with those. I haven't I've never been a massive fan of just doing lots of hot lapping. However, for an upcoming video, I had to do some quite extensive periods of getting lap times, and I just enjoyed driving a car. That is an NSX GT3 car, and I just enjoyed driving it. It was just a fun vehicle to go and lap around circuits, to learn circuits and all of that kind of thing. And honestly, that's the biggest compliment. In some ways, that is, I can spend time just driving these cars, and it is great fun to, be taking them around a circuit. So, yeah, and this is playing on a controller as well. I don't know what the game's like on a wheel. I don't have one that works. Actually, I do have one that works on the Xbox, but it's not set up or plugged in or ready to go whatsoever. I will probably play Forza mostly with a controller, and I'm sure plenty of people watching this will as well, and it's great. It's great on a controller. I can't really complain too much about it. There have been tweaks to the damage system as well. You see there, we can go across to telemetry. Light bumps on vehicles aren't going to completely wreck your aero. Light bumps on the wall even aren't going to, wreck your aero really easily. The cars feel stronger. Contact between cars doesn't feel too bad either. I mean, you see there, we hit the back of the car ahead, and we hit it with a little bit of force in it. It got a bit unsettled, but nothing crazy. So it's hopeful. I mean, I can't tell you what it's going to be like wheel-to-wheel racing online yet, of course, but it's hopeful about stuff like that. Visually as well, the game is pretty damn impressive, especially with the varying times of day. The changeable times of day, the changeable weather. I like the aspect now that we've got these tyre compounds. We don't have the weather radar that you get in Gran Turismo, but truth is, I don't mind that. I like the bit of randomness. Hell, in real motorsport, they have radars, and they're never always accurate. Sometimes you get caught out. The Gran Turismo one is perfectly accurate, which is kind of good, but, I like that little bit of randomness. I'm sat here going, I don't know if this rain is going to get heavy. If this was a longer race, it's like, you don't know for sure what's going to be happening. That's exciting. that's what I want for my racing game. Real-life motorsport can be quite a bit like that. So, there goes the back end. That's fine. We are pushing hard to try and find a way past this Honda. I'm not going to be able to dive down here, which is a little bit of a shame, but actually it looks like it's brightening up. I think it was a good idea to go on the slick tyres, but the game's idea. But, so yeah, great fun to go driving around in. One of the problems that... I mean, we are actually already seeing it on... This is a relatively short race. The AI, they are not so great. The biggest problem I have with them is how spread out they get. Even in a one-make race. I know, yeah, okay, there are some different cars in here. There are some varying vehicles and whatnot. But even in a one-make race, the lap time spread from the AIs at the front to the AIs at the back can be huge. All on the same difficulty. So this is on... difficulty 6 or 7, I think, out of 8 that I put it on here. And the Levorg is actually the slowest of the touring cars. But, I mean, you could already see the huge gaps are forming after 3 laps. There are vast... well, some races it's a little bit closer, but the majority of races I've been in, there are vast gaps. So the field just becomes really spread out, which is not really all that fun. I want to set... I don't want all the AIs doing identical lap times, of course not. But when I set the difficulty to a certain setting... I want that to be the setting for everything. I don't want it to be a setting for part of the grid, and then some of the grid be completely irrelevant. You just end up... Like in this race here, for example, there are 24 cars on track, and I am racing... Well, one of them is all I've really seen. And actually, this is one of the closer races I've seen, and that says a lot about how spread out the field gets. It's no fun. Necessarily, you want to be able to battle with a bunch of cars, perhaps have cars close together. And the problem is that when the cars are close together, it gets worse because they're not very good at racing each other. I've had cars pretty much stop dead on flat-out corners. Now, that's not very helpful, especially not if me, as the player, is going, well, flat out into that corner, expecting it to be a flat-out corner, and suddenly an AI has panicked because there was a car vaguely near it on the outside and completely come to a halt. That's an issue. That is a real big problem. Now, there is a penalty system in this game for... I think you saw it when I bumped the car ahead. There are penalties for going off track. You can turn it all off if you don't want to run it on. There's a sort of credit bonus. I think it's 10% credits for running the race with all of that on. You go off the circuit. If the game judges... So you can go off the circuit and not get a penalty. But if the game's judged you to have gained an advantage, it'll give you a time penalty. It can be from like 0.1 of a second up to 3 or 4 seconds for a particular instance. Potentially even more if you really jump the circuit. Game suffers from a similar issue that every single game I've ever seen that does penalties struggles from, is an AI can't really judge context. And the penalties seem to be a little bit, I say arbitrary, but... sometimes you can get away with an awful lot of a cut on a corner without a penalty or with a tiny time penalty. Other times you make a mistake, run wide, lose a bunch of time, and then get a penalty as well. Collisions with other vehicles can be similar. I mean, I've received penalties for being pushed into an AI car by another AI. It's the same problem there's always been. If it annoys you too much in single player, you can just turn it off. I don't know. There is an online. It's got all safety ratings and all of that kind of thing. I worry that it's going to be too frustrating. There goes the thunder. I don't know if you will have heard that. Christ. That's not in the game. That's in my actual house. So we haven't really got any penalties in this race, so to speak of. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find a way past. I mean, this has actually been not a bad race against this Honda, to be fair. The very frustrating, I've done it many times, is when I've been sat in a race where I've just found myself in maybe second place or something, just not quite close enough to do anything about the leader, and miles ahead of everybody else, and it's just a lot of hot lapping. We may be able to have a dive into this final corner. It's going to have to be one hell of a dive, but we might be able to do it for a podium position here. I don't know Mid-Ohio very well, and I'm not very good through there this time around. Could we? No, we're going to be way too far back to send it. Unless we've got a lot of mid-quarter speed, which we don't. Oh, I tried really hard. We were just not quite close. We figured we got some speed by the end of that there, but it was just not quite enough. Damn it. So yeah, there is the penalty system. It's a bit hit and miss. It's what is kind of to be expected whenever. We'll have to wait and see. There may well be adjustments to it. There may well be tweaks to it as time goes on. That's actually surprisingly one of the closer races I've ever seen in terms of lap speed. Typical, the race where I'm trying to make a point, it goes a little bit squiffy on. Of course it does. But yeah, that was a fun enough race to be going through. Now, as far as other important aspects to the game, let's go through the car list next. The car list for this one is interesting. It's not bad, per se. There are just some weird omissions from it. So we're going to go into the by-car menu. For example, Alfa Romeo is here. The only thing we've got is a Giulietta. No 4C, no Quattrofolio, no 155. None of that stuff that you would probably expect. Now, there may well be more cars coming. Well, there will be sort of cars from the car pass. There are also vehicles that are prize cars that you can't get from here that are prize cars for some of the single player career modes, like a Dodge Demon, for example, Challenger Demon thing. So I don't know quite where some of the vehicles might make appearances in later dates and whatnot. But there are some weird vehicles that are not in the game, and then cool vehicles that are, like the old V12 Vanquish, or the Vantage V600, which is amazing, and I'm super glad to have that back. Then we go to Audi, and then I'm very sad again. I know this is a more me thing than anything else, but there is every generation of RS6 except for mine. Because of course, why include that? You've got all of the other ones. All of the other ones are here. Yet the one that I particularly want is not. And then you've got, Austin Healey 3000 is back in. Race cars, I mean, there are plenty of them. When it comes to GT3 cars, I mean, there's a selection. It's not great. I mean, you've got a 2014 Bentley in here, and then if we go to where do I want to go? We've got one hypercar in the form of the Cadillac. You've got a 2020 Corvette. I think they've got an older Corvette. I've got a 2014 Corvette. I mean, if you go to Ferrari, for example, here's Ferrari. You haven't really got a Ferrari GT3 car. You've got the 488 Challenge, but that's a one-make race car. It's the Forza just random selection of race cars that are kind of ish close to one another. It doesn't bother me that much personally, because I'm probably not going to do that much of that sort of racing. V8 supercars are back. There are touring cars, which is great, but they're all from random years and. A bit. I mean, I know, to be fair, that I know the BTCs, they haven't changed massively up until very recently, but still. And then you've got things like the Falcon is back again. And then if you like your 80s sort of silhouette ridiculous monsters, there's loads of them. In fact, I think there's more of them than there are GT3 cars, which I like. Is cool. They're great cars. But it's a bit weird. I think the best way to kind of sum up this car list is there's going to be weird admissions. There's going to be something that you're very annoyed about that it's not in the game, or quite a few things you're going to be very annoyed about that are not in the game, and then a few things you're like, oh, that's really cool. There's fun to be had here. There's definitely enough vehicles to be, I say, enjoying, to be getting on with. I mean, things like SCV12, that's very cool to have in the game. It's by no means a bad car list. It's just a bit of a confusing one in some ways. As I said, I'm sure stuff is going to be added as it goes along. However, the game shouldn't require sort of DLC to fix it. You will probably be happy to hear that there are no SUVs. As far as I can tell, there are none, and no trucks or anything along those lines. I mean, it's kind of a shame that we don't have things like the Cyclone. I don't mind having the odd SUV either. It's sometimes, well, I say SUV, I prefer the trucks. It's sometimes fun to do your own super ute race or whatever it might be. But I'm glad, we've got rid of most of them. But yeah, it's an interesting car list. You'll definitely find plenty to have fun with. I said, you like your silhouette cars, you are absolutely set. And this thing's cool. Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme Trans Am. What a machine that one is. So that's your car list done. Track list. Also, I say pretty good. It's a fun track list. It's by no means perfect. Where can I show you easily? Let's go Rivals, actually. This will probably be the easiest way to do it. So you've got Catalonia. This has got Three of its layouts. You've got the GP circuit, you've got the national layout with the chicane, the national layout without the chicane. I quite like Catalonia for sort of lower classes. The short circuit I quite like in the lower classes. You've got Spa, you've got Eagle Rock, so I don't know if that's an actual real... I presume it's not a real circuit. I think it's fictional. It's an oval, although there is a layout with a chicane, which is a bit funky. The fictional tracks have all got reverse layouts. Grand Oak Raceway is a fictional track. That's quite fun. Hakone, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, also a fictional track. Is okay. Not my favourite. I prefer Grand Oak, but they're both, as fictional tracks go, they're both quite fun to go racing around. They're both quite suitable for racing. You've got Homestead, you've got Indianapolis, you've got some new tracks. Kyalami is here, which is great. I actually like the track a lot more than I thought I would. It's good fun. Le Mans is here, Lime Rock, Maple Valley, Midder Highway, which just drove. Really, really like that circuit. Great fun. Mugello, Nürburgring, Road America. You got a decent number of circuits. More are on the way. The full Nordschleife, that's on the way. Yas Marina's on the way. I don't know what else we might see in the future. It's a decent track. Oh, and Laguna's got an alternate layout, a Laguna short layout that I have never seen before, which is very weird. I mean, it's kind of cool. I didn't even know there was a short layout. There's kind of like an outer loop at Laguna. But yeah, so track list, it's not bad. There's definitely more than enough. There's no real duff circuits. I don't like Le Mans. I don't like driving that track. But it's not, like I say, it's not a duff circuit per se. It's my personal preference. There isn't the Bugatti circuit, though. It's only the main circuit, which is a little bit of a weird omission. But there we go. So yeah, I mean, the tracks that are there are all great. You would maybe hope for a few more along the way. A few more are potentially coming a little bit in the future. You see, it is at this point where I'm going to say something that is rather odd to say 15 minutes into a video, but truth be told, you can pretty much ignore everything I have said so far about this game. In fact, most of the things I could say about this game are entirely irrelevant because it has the single worst design choice I have ever seen in a game. I mean, we're talking Starfield, for example. I'm sorry to pick on Starfield a little bit here, but the carry capacity certainly at the start is woeful. It's really, really frustrating. There are ways you can work around, you eventually figure it out, but it's just really, really frustrating. You do more inventory management. That's not great, right? There are better ways to do it. You go a step below that for a worse decision, again sticking with Starfield, the inability to fly around a planet or have some sort of vehicle or speeder or whatever to get around a planet. So you've got to walk everywhere. Also frustrating, I say, a poor design choice. You can keep going. You go lower, you find the Crew Motorfest with its inability to fast travel for ages in the game, forcing you to drive rented cars for ages in the game that I don't really care about. Not a great design choice. Put me off that game. And then you can keep going. And you keep going down the rung of terrible game choices, and at some point where you think the floor is, you get to loot boxes. And then it turns out there is a basement. There is a hellish pit where the choice to mess up, completely decimate the car upgrade system on Forza Motorsport resides. Now, to me, the main attraction to Forza Motorsport over any other racing game is the ability to customize your cars. It does it better, and it has done it better for years than anybody else. If I want to go and race GT cars, I'm going to go and play Assetto Corsa or iRacing. And the truth is, as I went through here, there is some GT3 cars, but they're a bit of a mishmash selection, as it always has been the case with Forza. What's great about Forza is my ability to go, here is a Vantage V600, let's go and make it into a GT car, let's go and race it, let's go and race the Vantage against an R8, against an S4, for example, and put them all in roughly the same class and make them have a fun race. It's about the variety, it's about the freedom and choice to go and build up what you want and have some fun, and they have completely destroyed this ability. So let me give you an example. Let's go and grab this Dodge Challenger for a minute, and we're going to go into an upgrade shop. Now, the upgrade shop itself, this car has a few levels into it. The upgrade shop itself is the same as it was before. We can go to the performance upgrades, right? However, a lot of these parts are locked because you have to level up your car. Your vehicle gains XP the more you drive it. And you cannot get these parts until the car is a higher level. Now, you don't use money to buy these parts, you use car points that are earned as you level up. So to get weight reduction on your car, for example, you have to be at level 20 per car. This is not an overall thing, this is per each individual car. To get to the fun stuff, I say the crazy stuff, aspiration swap, okay, that's at 20, but engine swaps, you're looking at 40. to get to level 40 or 50, you are looking at between 2 and 3 hours of driving per car to be able to upgrade the vehicle. This is absurd. This is not progression. This is hiding the fun part behind an insane amount of grinding. Unnecessary, completely unnecessary grinding in this point. Because, let's say, for example, I'm going to go and look to buy a new car. Let's go into the shop here. Now, let's say I want to go and buy a car to race in B class. All right, we're going to start off with something down in perhaps E class. We want a load of upgrades. Actually, you know what? Let's start with an MR2. I like the MR2. I like the MR2 supercharged. Okay, I think it's a fantastic car. Now, maybe you'll sit there and go, you know what? I would like to go and see if I can make, a nice, fun B-class race car out of this MR2. So we're going to go and buy this one. Here, we'll go through, got more than enough money to go and acquire the car. But the thing is, of course, I can't now go modify it to B-class. I can do barely anything with this. If we go into upgrades, for example, from a completely stock car, we can do exhausts and air filters and oil and cooling. We can do brakes, weirdly brakes. We can put brakes on. Can't afford great brakes because, we don't have the XP to do it. For some reason, the sport brakes are 1 PI less, but let's not get into that. But yeah, so I can barely do any upgrades on this. About all I can do is maybe put an exhaust in the car, for example. We can actually, surprisingly, we can get up to D class. Okay, all I can do is the really bare minimum in terms of upgrading on this car. And now I've got to go and spend 3 hours driving this car to upgrade it, because maybe you're going to want a different engine in this car. Maybe you're going to want a bit more power. Maybe you want, funnily enough, a bit of freedom in with this vehicle. I'm not quite sure what I've done. Do I actually have an MR2? I presume so. It's slightly gone out of the window here. I'm slightly losing my train of thought here. Okay, now the problem is then exacerbated by the fact that I've now got to go drive this car for ages. Well, I can't go drive it in the career mode. Oh no, because the career mode's really, really short. What is here is quite good fun, okay? But this is it. This is all there is. And I have completed it all. Not only have I completed it all, but I completed all of this within about 2 days. Now, I got this game, a little bit before release, before the embargo and everything. However, due to other commitments, due to being busy and whatnot, I haven't had time to sit down and just play the game constantly. In 2 days of playing, I completed all the career mode events. It's done. They're all here. Now, there are some more coming out, and I presume there will be more in the future, but here's the thing. The next one doesn't start until 7 days. 7 days for the next career event. It's 21 days until this one. These events do not take particularly long to get through. And I've done it all. And then here's the other kicker. That MR2, I can't use here. None of the events that are here allow me to run that MR2. So I can't sit here and level up the MR2 in any of it. I say that. Maybe that one would let you. I don't think it does, though, when I was looking through the cars. But regardless, you could easily pick a car that you like. That none of these events, because they're all very, very specific to, specific stuff. So I can't use any of the career mode necessarily for the car that I want to drive. Can't use any of these open championships because they only go down to C class. So my MR2 or whatever car can't use. Oh, other fun thing, can't use a race car. None of the championships you will be able to play as this game comes out will allow you to lose a race car. Not only a specific to a race car, even a championship like A class here. For example, the Levorg is A class. I know the Levorg is A class. Okay, go into A class. Here are these are my cars. These are the cars I have in my garage. Suddenly the Levorg's not here, because it's not allowed. So, any fun race cars? Nope, can't use those in single player at all. Those championships, those featured ones, looks like they may allow you to use race cars in the future, in a week's time. So I can't upgrade. So I can't do anything, any career mode to help upgrade my MR2. The only thing I can do to help upgrade it is to go and do free play. I could I go do multiplayer? Okay, maybe I could, but I'm going in with a stock car that relies on there being a championship that is available for it. So this is the featured multiplayer. This is like the specific events. Well, I can't do qualifier series. This is a one-make championship for a Civic. Okay, fine. I like touring cars. I like one-make races. Can't use my MR2 here. These spec events are using prototypes and GTX and touring cars and GT cars. Well, that's not going to have my MR2 in. The open events, well, there is an E-Class one. The MR2 would fit in this one, but it ends in 11 hours, and I don't know if there's going to be an E-Class one going forward. So certainly can't rely on being able to play multiplayer to improve your car. Okay, you could do private sessions. I'm lucky. I have a big community that I can go and race with probably whenever I want. I can say, here's a race, let's go do some multiplayer, and people will jump on. Mostly will be sensible, but not everybody is going to have that luxury. A lot of people won't have that luxury. Their friends may not be as into racing and so on. So, okay, we can't really build the car there. Can we go and use it in free play? Well, we can. The problem is, free play events just give you next to no car XP. Your actually best bet is to go and race around in time trial. So you've got to sit there and spend 2 to 3 hours driving around in a time trial to get the ability to upgrade your MR2 how you might want. Now, I'm not going to drive the MR2 for the sake of this. Let's go drive this Lamborghini because it's cool. Just for a little bit of a free race. Let's go to Kyalami, just so I'm not on the menu screen the entire time while I rant. We'll go Kyalami for sort of like 5 laps. That seems like a good idea. So yeah, I've lost my train of thought again. Whoops. It takes so unnecessarily long to work your way through to upgrade a car. And the worst bit of it all is that MR2 I would expect to be a relatively quick car, right? You expect that MR2 to probably be quite a good B-class car, for example. It's small and light and that's generally fast in Forza. But here's the thing. Any game that has some form of rating, ranking system, PI system, whatever for vehicles, there are always going to be discrepancies. There's always going to be vehicles that are better, I say better than others. There are going to be vehicles that don't quite work and all of that kind of thing. And while Forza generally doesn't do too bad a job on making them work, there's still always going to be vehicles like that. That's always going to occur, right? So you could spend 3 hours to build this MR2, to get this MR2 unlocked enough stuff so that you could go and potentially build it to B-class, and then you find out it doesn't work. Then you find out that it's just not quite good enough, that it isn't quite, it's not quite quick enough or any of that sort of stuff, and then you've wasted 3 hours on that vehicle. It doesn't do what was the point of this upgrade system. The point of this upgrade system is to try and address progression with Forza. That has had issues, okay? There have been issues with Forza games and progression, right? However, an upgrade system where it very, very, well, I say decimating the upgrade system doesn't solve that problem, right? Because you're not really getting progression. I could go out and I have bought this Lamborghini SCV12, right? I have bought this almost immediately. One of the first cars that I bought in the game, right? Because I like it, it's cool. Okay, the prices of, because this upgrade system has absolutely shafted any fun and so on with the upgrades, the prices of the actual cars are completely balked. The most expensive car is 450,000 credits, which is, I think, the Koenigsegg Jesko. Lamborghini like this may be 300, 400,000, whatever. Formula 1 cars are 300,000 for a Formula 1 car. So you can still fill your garage full of supercars quite quickly, because the money earned isn't too bad on here, and especially considering you're going to be doing a lot of one-make races and grinding when you're not spending your money on upgrades, it doesn't solve progression issues. What it's just done is ruin variety. Because what's going to happen is people that want to go and run leaderboards or want to go and run class races, and guess what? They're going to go look at the leaderboards and they're going to go, oh, well, this car, whatever the vehicle may be, let's say a Mini, for example, is massively OP, we'll just go and build a Mini. There's no incentive to go and, try other stuff because you're going to waste so many hours to get it to a point where you might be able to do it when you could have spent that hour just making the OP car. Everything's just going to become a one-make race, almost. It ruins, for me, in terms of, creativity, what I can do with the game, entirely ruins that. Takes away the fun, takes away the variety. There's no real upside to any of this. Now, the argument that will be trotted out is, as I said, is going to be the progression, is going to be the old memey, sense of pride and accomplishment, and all of that bollocks. Okay, let's go down this train of thought. If I ask most people, I've had this conversation with plenty, what is the game that does a sense of ownership with the cars, that you acquire in the game the best? Chances are the answer is going to be Test Drive Unlimited. To me, that is the game that does it best. Test Drive Unlimited 1 and 2 do a sense of ownership fantastically well with the cars. The reason? Not to do with forcing me to drive a vehicle for 2 or 3 hours to see if I actually want to be able to build it how I want it to. No. The reason that does so well is because when you go to buy vehicles, they have little showrooms that you can walk around. Because you can store your cars in garages, you can display your cars in garages, you can wander around in the garages and look at the vehicles and whatnot. That's how you do sense of ownership. Now, you wouldn't, in this game, it would be really easy to do. You wouldn't even need to have, I mean, I don't know how difficult the ability to walk around a garage like a showroom would be, but you don't need the actual free, say free cam, but the free walking around the garage. To do it, you could just have the menu screen where you have the buy car screen. You know, if you go to different manufacturers, there could be just a menu screen where, you know, let's say you go to Ford. Again, I use Ford just because I know there's a lot of Fords in the game, for example. You know, you go to Ford and there's this big showroom with Fords, and you could just flick. You can have fixed cameras looking at each car, but as you flick around, it's like all in one building, for example. And that gives you the whole, here is, you know, here are your cars in a showroom. The race cars could be in like a big warehouse of race cars. The classic cars could be in like a big auction house sort of style room. And that solves, I say that solves that issue. It's not a big thing. It's not a crazy complicated thing to do, that one. But it just gives you that little bit more player involvement in all of it. You can have the cars, you know, you could have, I don't want storage limits, I don't have to buy different garages and so on necessarily. But, you know, you could have different garages that you could park your cars in for a menu screen. This one, you can select what car you have in the background, where I have that Levorg at the moment. You can select what vehicle there is and 3 others that are kind of sequestered in a corner. You can select them, but that's it. And you only really see the Levorg. Why not have a big warehouse that you could either lay your cars out or have, you know, different vehicles appear in there as time goes on? I fear I've made a poor choice in terms of my tyres. It started raining and things have got very wet and my slick tyres have given up. I think I don't know whether the AIs are on the same point. And this is what's got infuriating, is it could be so good and yet they've ruined it with this, just taking away what is the game's biggest selling point, most, you know, ridiculously strong selling point, and wrecked it. And, you know, if you want to go down the line of progression, okay, well, the career mode's non-existent at the moment. Completely non-existent. Why not go down, again, the best example I can give you for career mode progression would be from the old Topper Race Driver games. The original Grid does progression incredibly well. That's how you do progression, right? That's how you do a progression in a racing game. You start off in, you know, an MX-5 Cup car. Hell, maybe you even go, you know, a step further. You have like the Beetle Fun Cup cars. You have a Citroen C1, Ford KA Cup. They all do. They're all events. They're all entry-level motorsport events that you could include. Have the game, have the game start you off there. Run a championship for, let's say, C1s. Okay, run a C1 championship. If you maybe you earn money. If you win, get a top 3. Maybe you get things like job offers or contracts with other teams. Maybe you then start going up to, I don't know, the MX-5 Cup cars. Maybe you go up to an M3 or even, you know, a 3 Series championship, and then touring cars. Then you can have special invitational events before you get fully into the whole, you know, prototype cars. Maybe you have an invitational event to drive some of those IMSA GTP silhouette cars and V8 supercars, and then as you go further and further into the career, you get to the proper V8 supercar championship, and all of that kind of stuff is how you do progression in a career mode. You know, you wouldn't necessarily have to even change the menus that much, but you could go down the whole route. I think Automobilista 2 does it as well now, where you have, you know, like a little computer screen where you're getting, you know, offers to drive in championships or sponsor deals and all of that kind of stuff. You want to do motorsport right, that's how you do it. That's how you get progression. Not, here is your MR2, go and drive it for 3 hours. It may get fun stuff later on. It may work for what you want it to, but you don't know. If you are insistent on keeping this system, it is an easy enough fix. Again, you could keep a version of this. Get rid of the required levels to upgrade various bits of your car. Just set it back to spending money to upgrade them. What they should have done with this system, if they were insistent on going down this route, is rather than having a level per specific car, because I don't think this would really be worth it, but let's take a level per manufacturer. So let's use, we're in a Lamborghini, let's use Lamborghini. So every time I drive a Lamborghini, you are earning car XP towards Lamborghini. Whether it's this SC V12, whether it's a Miura, whatever. As you level up, you get money off. You get money off the parts for the vehicle. So maybe at level 10 you get 25% off, maybe at level 25 you start getting 50% off. You know, maybe it works its way up towards like 75% off. Maybe at level 50 you get, well, maybe this SCV12 becomes a prize car for getting to level 50. Maybe you get special unlocks or something along the line. Maybe you get a special like Lamborghini event when you get to the top of that. Again, that system allows you to have the fun. It allows you to have the fun of, let's try and build a Miura to run in A-Class. Let's see if I can build, I don't know, a Yalpa to compete against an Aventador. It allows you to have that entertainment without... it allows you to have that entertainment while still giving you, you know, a reason to be loyal to a manufacturer. It still, you know, you still have that, let's try and level up something without completely ruining all aspects of the game. Any of those systems, literally anything would have worked better than this. I would have taken none of this system over what they've put in it. The lack of progression from other Forza games can stay if this is the only other option. Because, as I said, while, you know, the car list is fun, there's some interesting stuff in it. You know, there's 2 TCR cars. Well, I don't know if the RS3 LMS is technically a TCR car. You know, there's 1 or 2 cars. The GT cars are all from different years. The prototypes have probably got the best. Those silhouette cars have probably got the best of classes. There's not enough stuff. You know, Gran Turismo isn't great when it comes to upgrading. It never really has been for the road cars. But funnily enough, they make up for that because... I say they make up for that. You don't really ever drive the road cars very much because they've got good class, they've got good systems, they've got good balancing and whatnot for the GT cars. This, yeah, is... I run out of adjectives. I run out of descriptives for this. And the thing is, what you've just watched in terms of that race is fantastic. That's what I've always wanted from a Forza game. We had a race, we started on slicks, it poured it down with rain, we had to bail, we had to go to pits, we had to try and survive on skiddy tyres and so on, and that's awesome. That's fantastic. And then they've defecated over all of that by ruining the upgrades. The rest of this game, it just doesn't matter when you've ruined it so catastrophically. The sad thing about all of this, and the thing that does genuinely make me saddest about this, is it's all fixable. We shouldn't be at a point where the game is coming out, you know, tomorrow, where I am sitting here saying this needs major adjustments. A game that's been delayed and a game that's taken ages, I should not be sat here saying this desperately needs big adjustment. I mean, it desperately needs more career mode races. I know some are coming, and that's easy enough to add, but this is pitifully short. It desperately needs more career mode races, but the upgrade system has to be fixed. Now, it can be fixed. It could be got rid of. It could be changed into a manufacturer loyalty style system, whatever. This can be fixed. The sadness part is that if it is not fixed quickly, by the time it is, nobody's going to care, because nobody's going to be playing the game. That's my big concern with this. Somewhere underneath all of this, there is a great fun game. It looks great, weather effects, light effects, all fantastic. Drives really, really well. Lots of fun to be had, but it is entirely ruined by the most obtuse upgrade system imaginable. I hope it gets fixed. I really, really hope it gets fixed. And I hope it gets fixed quickly before it has put almost everybody off from playing it. Because the main attraction, the main freedom and a variety that the racing on this game can do has been completely destroyed. This is not particularly the video that I wanted to do, but it is important to talk about these things. Now, I have got more content coming out on Forza Motorsport. We have some ideas of how to make the best of a bad situation, of a bad game, or not a terrible upgrade system. We've got some ideas. Things are going to be considerably more restrictive for a while. You know, a lot of the stuff that I would want to do, I simply can't. From a content creator standpoint, this is awful. From just a gameplay standpoint, it's still almost as awful as well. But yeah, that is going to be it for this video. thank you all very much for watching. And until next time, goodbye.